Hey there, NPCs. Welcome to Rules of Cool, where we interview very special guests, creators, gamers, designers, and world builders. I'm your host, Rem, and today we're bringing back returning guest Jason Hardy, the Shadowrun line developer, and we'll be talking about the new platform for community content programming, Holo Streets, and what's new for the sixth world. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss it. Now, you can type in hashtag RemPC in the chat anytime during the show tonight for your free entry to be entered for a chance to win the new metaplanar book from Shadowrun, Astra Ways. And it can be yours by typing hashtag RemPC, donating bits, or subscribing in chat. Every 100 bits gets you a bonus entry to win, and subscribing gets you 7 whole bonus entries. And you get that one free entry, again, by typing hashtag RemPC. In Rem Alternus news, Subversion, the new cyberpunk fantasy TTRPG by Fragging Unicorns Games, is now live on Kickstarter. Build your community and subvert authority at every turn in this gritty Neo-Babylon setting. Head to the link in chat and back now before the campaign ends. Exit Vector is the aerial combat minis game coming to Kickstarter March 28th. Give your pilots some much-deserved attention as you use this rules-light game on its own or as part of your cyberpunk role-playing game. Get your rigor on with Exit Vector and follow the link in chat to check out the project. And don't forget to enter your email. Well of the Worlds is coming to Kickstarter as well on April 4th from Mobius Worlds Publishing. Powered by Prowlers and Paragons Ultimate Edition, this TTRPG setting transports characters into a new fantasy world where they discover they have powers they didn't have in their home world. Inspired by Japanese isekai portal fantasy stories, this is a world of adventure for you to explore. Learn more by visiting the link in chat and following the project. And finally, Battletech is returning to Kickstarter on March 23rd, premiering at Adepticon in Chicago. This new Mercenaries campaign means more minis, more maps, more stretch goals, and more fun. So check it out at the link in chat and don't miss out on the launch. Now, time to get right into our conversation for this week, so stay tuned, RemPCs. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome back, Jason. How are you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's always nice to talk to you, Jason. You're one of my favorites. Well, actually, your daughter is one of my favorites, but you come in a close second.
That's totally understandable, and we accept your ranking.
Awesome. Well, we've had you on the show before, and we've asked some of the usual questions, so I'm going to jump right in to our questions of the week, because we've got Holo Streets to talk about. And so my first question, because of Holo Streets and the ability to add your own little stamp on the sixth world, what brought that about? Is there anything about the OGL that caused that to happen, or what is Catalyst's stance on the whole OGL?
No, this wasn't specifically because of all the OGL kerfluffle. In fact, we've been working on this for a while. It's just one of those projects that we've been working on when you have a crack in the schedule and you can put some time on it, but then those cracks go away, and so it keeps getting pushed off. But we finally are ready to launch, and it happens to come at a good time. But it's something we wanted to do for a while, just because we know Shadowrun has a very passionate community, and we know that people want to do things in different editions of Shadowrun and want to try things that are different. We get questions all the time where people want to write up their home city for Shadowrun and put that in the sixth world and put in the landmarks they know about and special things to them and put that in a Shadowrun setting. And Holo Streets gives everyone the opportunity to do that. You can put together whatever Shadowrun content you want And you can use the provided templates and art to make it look pretty and very Shadowrunny, and then you can put it up on the Holo Streets area of Drive-Thru RPG and find an audience for it, and you can sell it.
That's awesome. My next question is what is Holo Streets and how will it work? So you kind of gave us that nice
right to that.
You did. So you said there's assets that creators can use to kind of help build this and make it marketable. And it's all through Drive-Thru RPG. Is there like a program or a template, or what are the requirements behind it in order to do this?
Yeah, so Drive-Thru RPG has long had their community content program, and so a lot of people, the Dungeon Masters Guild and Pathfinder Infinite and other games that have a community content program. So this is just following in their footsteps. But we want to make it as easy as possible for people to create, and so that's why we have the art pack, so that you can have a lot of images to put into your product, and then have the templates so that it looks like a Shadowrun product. The templates are based on Shadowrun 6th World, so that's what it will look like. That doesn't mean you have to make SR6 products. If you want to do something for an earlier edition, go for it. Make it happen. Make content for your favorite edition. And if you want to make your own templates, that's okay. We just thought we'd make one for those of you who don't have the graphic skills, you can have it made easy for you. So that's not a barrier to people getting into the program. But if you want to make your own, I'm not going to stop you, but we're here to make it easy for you.
Awesome. That's really cool. So then
you can just post it. There is an agreement that you'll sign, just basic contract that's standard for Drive-Thru. And then we'll have some content guidelines of what you can and can't include, just about how much, violence and other adult material you should include in the stuff. And of course, we want absolutely no racism, no offensive content, no content that further marginalizes already marginalized people. So Shadowrun should be for everyone, and so the content should reflect that. But other than that, you'll be able to create lots of stuff and put it up for sale.
Awesome. That's really cool. And when is this going live?
Should be March 24th is the date we have circled on the calendar to launch it.
Awesome. That's super exciting. So I left this off our questions, so sorry, but I know you have something to say about it anyway.
I'll just make up an answer.
Yeah, right. So is there anything? I'm tossing you a big fat softball right now, like it's a wiffle ball. Is there anything that's set to release already on Holo Streets, so the website doesn't launch and then there's nothing there for a while? Is there anything that will be ready for launch?
Yes, we're certainly hoping there will be some things ready for launch. I'll be talking to some people, but in particular, one group we've talked to, you mentioned in your intro, the fine people who are making the Exit Vector game should be working on something, and we want that to be available for launch. And as you mentioned in the intro, Exit Vector is a kind of rigor chase combat game, but with simplified rules, so that if you moved into a chase scene from your Shadowrun game, then you could use the Exit Vector rules to make it a little simpler to play the combat scene. If you were just wanting to play a vehicle chase game by itself and not as part of a tabletop role-playing game, you could play Exit Vector. But it is designed to work really well with Shadowrun. I played it. It does work really smoothly. It does have a kind of Shadowrun 6 feel to it, but simplified, so it works really well with those mechanics, but it would work as a standalone thing too. So that should be, assuming those Exit Vector people have their act together, that should be a launch product.
I would know nothing about that. Coming to Kickstarter March 28th, and there will be minis. The Kickstarter is for the generic, system agnostic game, and that comes with miniatures. And then there's going to be a skin for the rulebook for Shadowrun as well, because these are Shadowrun fans that wanted more rigor love in the game, and to have some really neat chase scenes or extraction scenes and things like that. There are maps with hexes. There are a bunch of different minis and more that might be created as stretch goals as well. So that way they kind of support and supplement each other. So if you want the rules for how to do it and the basic set, you can go to Holo Streets. If you want lots of minis to paint and stuff like that, you can go to the Kickstarter. So yeah, that's how that kind of overwhelms. So thanks for letting me do some promotion there in the middle of
no problem. Happy to have them.
It's relevant.
I've been they've been a great team to work with. They are always prepared, always knowing what they want, always ready to move to the next step. It's a good team, and I'm excited to see how they roll out the product in the next month or so.
Yeah, and they're demo agents, most of them. So like it's neat that, these are people that do know Shadowrun, that run Shadowrun regularly at conventions and have built something to expand the game, which is neat.
Absolutely.
So there's been a lot of releases for Shadowrun lately. I feel like every time I look on Facebook, there's a new book out. So tell us about some of the biggest and most recent releases that have come for Shadowrun.
Yeah, some of that is just because, shipping bottlenecks us, and so we just release things when shipping managed to get it to us. So we usually try to spread it out every other month. But in January and February, we had releases coming out back to back. So January saw the release of Null Value. That was the Matrix Threats book. So if you already picked up Hack and Slash and you want to figure out who is in the Matrix causing problems for your deep Matrix runs, then Null Value is the book to look at. As you can guess by the title, the Null Sect, who is one of my favorites, is profiled in there, along with other groups. And then just in February, we had the book you mentioned for the giveaway, Astral Ways. We've had this ongoing plot line with a lot of metaplanar disruptions and extra portals opening up to metaplanes, and this really gets you into the full exploration of the metaplanes if you want to go there. If you want to take your Shadowrun game to really weird and wild lands, but still have Shadowrun elements, like you want to still be able to do some hacking while you're in this strange kind of metaplanar realm, then Astral Ways has got all the rules for you to work that out. And it will tie in a lot to the upcoming plots. So if you want to know how the plots are going to develop, Astral Ways has a lot of good clues in it for you. And then we had 2 card decks come out in February too. The program deck, which goes along with Hack and Slash. So it just has programs. If you have trouble keeping track of programs and you want to just be able to put cards in front of you that tell you what your programs are and what they do, then program deck is the deck for you.
Like Edge Zone.
Like Edge Zone, but just for reference rather than a standalone game.
Fair. I just like lining them all up.
Yeah, they are fun to see and get all your Shadowrun stuff in front of you. And then the Rogues lineup is the follow-up to the Rogues Gallery, so another NPC deck. So if you need more NPCs, and these are great because you can use them as NPCs in your game. You can even use them as PCs. If you're doing a quick pickup game at a convention and you need to deal out some characters, you can just give them some cards and they can run. I've done that and it works really smoothly. So anytime you need Shadowrun characters with their stats in a good compact format, you can get the Rogues lineup deck or the Rogues Gallery, and you've got a bunch of NPCs. And they also, fit on the Game Master screen because you got the cool sleeves on the Game Master screen where you can perch them on top and you can see the stats and the other people see the portrait. It's great.
I'm going to be at GaryCon here in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to be running a Shadowrun game for some friends. I might have to get that deck, and I left my GM screen in Canada, so I might need another GM screen so that I can do that because I really like the feel of that, and especially for some of them haven't played Shadowrun much, if ever. So being able to just hand out some cards and be like, choose your character, sounds really fun.
Or go out and visit Red or Games Plus in Mount Prospect, and he'll hook you up.
Ooh,
at least he better have all the Shadowrun stuff.
Right. Well, so yeah, I'll have to make a trip when I'm in Chicago next week.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Well, so let's talk some competition. There have been a lot of Cyberpunk Fantasy TTRPG Kickstarters launching early this year. How do you feel about the products within the genre growing?
I think it's really interesting to see different takes on the genre and what they emphasize and what they want to do with the genre, because I think there's a lot of ways to approach it. One of the things I've always loved about Shadowrun is how many options you have, that you can tell an infinite amount of stories, you can make an infinite amount of characters. So there's not one way to do that genre. And so all the other games that are coming to it are showing kind of the different things they like and the different things they emphasize. And I think it's great to see what all those different approaches are and to see what the different creators think is important and what they think is the fun part of it, because there's a ton of fun parts of it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, it's the lore of Shadowrun is so deep and detailed. When you've got 30 some years of lore at this point, it kind of happens.
There's a lot.
But yeah, but it's interesting to see what people take from that. And like, there's always going to be mega corporations that are evil and taking over the world, because that's not happening in real life. So like
fantasy. That's the fantasy part of cyberpunk fantasy, is the mega corporations.
Yeah, totally. So like, yes, that's probably going to be there, but like, what do people change about the rule systems, the archetypes that you're used to seeing in Shadowrun? If there's not Shadowrunners, what part of society are they looking at, and
right.
And how are they're making a game and a plot that kind of supports the genre?
Yeah, and even the goals of the story. What are the ends of the story that you're looking for in the particular way of playing that, and that can vary from game to game.
Well, and seeing like a lot of the media that's coming out between Blade Runner and Altered Carbon was a great one to watch. Kind of that cyberpunk of what story are they going to tell in this cyberpunk future? So I like the skins and all of that kind of stuff. That's very interesting.
I would definitely love more cyberpunk fantasy media storytelling, but
me too. Anybody got I happen to have a script in my back pocket if anybody has investment money.
Anyone's got it? Contact Ram.
Yeah, please.
He's got the talent.
We'll make the series happen. It'll be cyberpunk and fantasy, and won't be Bright. Whether you love Bright or hate Bright. But
Michael Eisner, we need this. Just let it happen. Just let it happen, Michael Eisner.
Please, I'll be your best friend.
And what more do you want than that?
Right. So what else is coming for Shadowrun that you can talk about?
So we just released a new mission today.
Ooh.
So that is available. We also today have the Shadowrun 5 Mega Bundle that came out on Humble Bundle. So
let's talk about that.
If you still have affection for Shadowrun 5, and heaven knows I do, and you want to get like all the main books, so all of the core books, the advanced core books, the Seattle book, the corporate book, and a few more, 17 PDFs altogether, you can now buy them for one low price on Humble Bundle.
And so the link is in the chat. So you can click right there and get it. Humble Bundle is amazing for getting packages like these. Is Chrome Flesh going to be in the group?
Chrome Flesh is in there.
Little Easter egg for you guys. My name is in Chrome Flesh. It was before I cared about Shadowrun that a friend of mine who's a writer wrote our gaming group into Chrome Flesh, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. He's like, yeah, I want to run this cyberpunk fantasy game for you. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds really boring.
Nerd.
I'm a hypocrite. It's fine. It's fine. I'm obsessed now. So cool. The Humble Bundle. Yeah, right. So the Humble Bundle, you've got what was the first thing you mentioned again?
The mission that just came out.
The mission. Where are missions this year?
They're still in Neo Tokyo, so we're finishing up the Neo Tokyo run right now.
Okay. So that's pretty neat. And then what else? Anything else coming for Shadowrun that you can talk about?
Yeah, we've got a few books in the pipeline, so they are making their way to the warehouse. The next one will be should be hitting stores on April 5th, so not too far away, I mean. And it's called Whisper Nets. And it is a campaign book set in Manhattan. And it is all about digging around Manhattan and looking for secrets that you're not supposed to find and figuring out the best way to use whatever capital you get from uncovering these secrets.
Ooh, that's pretty neat.
Very fond of Manhattan, so I managed to put some of my favorite parts of Manhattan in that book. And I also included like a chase scene set in an automat because I'm also very fond of automats. So I got to put in lots of stuff I like.
Neato. Oh, that
And
sounds so
digging for
fun.
secrets, which I also like. So that it's a lot of fun. The writers did an excellent job of coming up with some great plot lines and then trying to make it all both tangled and accessible so you could figure out what's going on through all the tangled webs. But a lot of fun things to do in that campaign book. And
It's
then
really cool.
our core augmentation book. So if you like your cyber, if you like your geneware, if you like your bioware, if you like whatever augmentations there are, Body Shop is coming in June.
I like the name. It just leaves an image that I'm now processing through right now.
It was one of the easier names. I sometimes struggle with book names, like when we did Firing Squad, the combat book for Shadowrun 6. I was doing like name after name after name that got rejected, and it wasn't working. And it was my son Finn who finally came up with Firing Squad and
Nice. Go
demanded
Finn.
a creative consultant credit once he came up with it.
Go Finn. Go for it. You know,
Yeah, he will assert his rights whenever he feels he needs to.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I can't imagine naming the hundreds of books that are out for Shadowrun. You need so much creativity that I don't think I have. So
But yeah, it was funny though. Body Shop came easily. That was like, that would be a good one. And it was one of the ones when I sent it around to people, like, how have we not called an augmentation book Body Shop yet? How did we manage to not use that one? So good to have it.
awesome. Cool. So books coming out as always.
You mentioned Edge Zone. I should mention Edge Zone because we should talk a little bit about that since you've been working so hard on it.
Yeah, no.
Edge Zone is about to arrive if it hasn't already arrived in the warehouse. So that means all the distribution to the backers is just on the verge of happening. So get ready to receive your Edge Zone copies.
Yeah, the US has been, pretty easy to figure out fulfillment for some of the EU and Australia hubs we're waiting on responses for. So those ones might take a little bit longer, but I'm really excited about it. I cannot wait to get that game in my hands, like the final version, because I got some of the samples as we were running the Kickstarter and stuff. But to have the final will be really, really fun.
All the cards and all the tokens and everything. Yeah, it'll be fun to play. And then if for whatever reason you didn't back the Kickstarter, you can pick it up later in the summer. So, we'll give time to all the backers to get their copies first, but then it will hit stores probably later this summer.
Yay! Oh, that's so exciting. So speaking of summer is the season of conventions. I mean, they're happening in spring too, but I needed a segue. Okay. So
I will accept it.
Yeah, right. What conventions will Catalyst be attending this year? And where will the demo team be as well for people that want to play?
So the big one, of course, is Gen Con. So we will be at Gen Con in force, and we will have all sorts of demos and stuff going on. We will also, let's see, we should have some demos possibly going on at Origins. I'm not sure, but we unfortunately will not be at Origins as a company this year.
I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah, I usually enjoy Origins, but there have been complications. That's me using my diplomatic voice.
Yeah. The in Shadowrun terms, some negative qualities of. So where else are you going to be in place of Origins this year?
So there is a convention, and I don't know exactly how big our presence will be. There's a new convention starting up in Canada called GamesCon Canada. And so we might have a presence up there. That is the exact same dates as Origins. So we might have a presence there. We're looking at that. And then you mentioned the BattleTech Kickstarter launching at Adepticon. So we absolutely will have people at Adepticon. The whole BattleTech team will be there, and I'll probably just go by and crash it because, it's about 45 minutes from my home.
Yeah.
So I'll
Well,
just
you
go
can come hang out at GaryCon with me.
That's a little farther.
Like an hour and a half farther.
A little farther. So, but you come down here and come hang with me.
I will. I'm going to Chicago next week. And then for the following week, I'll be at GaryCon for anyone that's going to be there, which I guess also counts as Catalyst representation now. For those that don't know, I'm the new marketing director for Catalyst. Surprise!
Woo!
Yay! So I will be at GaryCon because I had been planning on going anyway, and that way I can do some networking while everyone is busy promoting the heck out of the BattleTech Kickstarter at Adepticon. Cool. Like, any other cons?
Looks like one exciting thing that we have coming. This isn't the summer, it's the fall, but it looks like we're going to send some lucky people to PAX Australia.
Okay, dibs, first of all. I have always wanted to go to Australia. I am so excited if that ends up happening. And part of what's exciting for PAX Australia too is we do have some live streamers that are pretty popular in Australia that are now going to be voicing some of the audiobooks. So so for Shadows Down Under, we have 2 Australians that will be narrating that. And I think there's a couple others that are coming right now. It's funny because I've got a British New Zealander. So he was born in Britain, but lives in New Zealand now, and an Australian that are going to be doing Vladivostok Gauntlet. So they are going to be doing Russian accents instead of their wonderful, wonderful other accents. But yeah, so very exciting to have them on board, and hopefully we can connect at PAX Australia. So
yeah, I don't think I'll be at PAX Australia, but if you go, more power to you. I might be once again in Germany. So we'll have a presence at Essen Game Fair.
Oh, neat. Oh, that's so neat. Yeah, that would be cool too. Awesome. Speaking of, Shadowrun and audiobooks and stuff like that, the first release that we have coming up is going to be Nothing Personal, which is a novella about from the perspective of a Mr. Johnson. And I'm very excited for this one to release. First of all, because I'm the voice actress in it. So you'll get to hear me. Thank you. But also because the voice actor did such a good job that I like working with him now. I have to remember that he was playing a character and I don't actually hate him to his core, because this character is awful and what you would expect a Mr. Johnson to be. But I'm very excited for the release. He's done a wonderful job.
I remember getting my first read through of that story and being like, okay, so this guy is a jerk. Okay, how big of a jerk can we let him be? And I was a little worried, but I think it worked out with the level of jerkiness that the writer provided.
Yeah, I think it's hard to start with and listen to at first, for the first 15 minutes or so, because he's establishing who he is as a person, and oh boy, does he. But then when you start getting into the run and the problems and stuff like that, then you kind of see he's still, the jerk element is there, but he's also trying to save his own skin. So some of the interactions and stuff humanize him a little more, which I think is very well done. So you actually kind of really get into the run, even though at first you're like, stop talking.
But it's a hat tip to a writer who can get you to react emotionally to a character like that.
Very much.
And not I believe alienate you from the story, but still keep you going and make you want to find out what's going to happen to this guy.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but I think it's Olivier Gagnon, who is the author. And he's done a few Shadowrun books, so I'm excited to see what else is coming. Neat. So you'll have to watch out for Nothing Personal coming to Audible and probably other places here pretty soon. Neat. So we've talked about conventions. Demo team will be at Gen Con, maybe Origins. And and then hopefully maybe Canada. If
Yeah, that's last I heard. It looks like probably Canada.
Cool, awesome. It was funny because when I heard about the Canada convention, I'm like, "We're in Canada," and they're like, "Canada," and I'm like, "Canada is big." I live in Canada. Is it close to home or really far from home?
Yeah, we're gonna send you to the convention because it's in Canada. Never mind that it's in Calgary. Calgary and Toronto are basically, neighbors.
I mean, well, and I'm in Montreal.
That's right, you're in Montreal, so even
yeah, but I'll be at Origins.
Oh well.
Oops. Yeah. All right. So, what are kind of going back to some of the books and stuff? What are some of the most recent plot threads of the Sixth World that have happened?
So, a long time ago, it seems now, back when we were planning sixth edition, we wanted to have a big plot book come out at the same time. And at the same time that we were thinking of what plots could be, RJ Thomas had been pitching me some ideas about Detroit, and especially Ares leaving Detroit. And so he would pitch an idea, and then I'd say, okay, but can we make it bigger? And so then he'd go back and pitch another idea, and I'd say, okay, that's good. Can we make it bigger? Because we really wanted to make it earth-shaking. And then I'd take it, and I thought he made it big enough, and I'd take it to Lauren, and Lauren would be like, yeah, but can we make it bigger? So all of that discussion resulted in the plot book that kind of launched with 6th edition, Cutting Black, where we did a whole lot of things with Ares not only leaving Detroit, but a whole army corps disappearing, and blackouts plaguing border cities in the UCAS, so that eventually they seceded, leaving the UCAS greatly weakened, and all sorts of fun along those lines. And at first, the plot line about the Army Corps disappearing was just an inconvenience for the UCAS, because, losing an Army Corps is a pain. But then we had the question of where did they go? And so we've been slowly revealing the answer to that question over the course of several books. And so some of the things we found out is some of the members of that Army Corps have been coming back. That happened in Slipstreams, but coming back kind of changed because they've been to another metaplane. And so they've had some alterations done to them. Now we're finding out why and how those alterations were done. And so we've been discussing this metaplane called Dis. And they clearly made a bargain with the corpse in order to make this Army Corps disappear. The entire nature of that bargain, what they got for it, and what prices they're going to ask for their services, we're still revealing. So because RJ did such a good job coming up with so many plots for Cutting Black, and he played a lead role in helping develop that book, he is the lead developer on a big follow-up plot book called Scotophobia. I fought long and hard for that title, even though people keep making fun of me for it.
I mean,
fear of Scots? Fear of people named Scott? Fear of people from Scotland? No. It's none of those. It's Fear of the Dark.
Well,
and I
heard Skota, and I was like, Supreme Court of the.
So, but it's fun to say. I've been saying it for months now. Scotophobia. It really rolls off the tongue with all the assonance of the O's.
Scotophobia. Say it.
So
can we say
book
it
is
5 times fast?
Yeah, give it a shot. Scotophobia. 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 Scotophobia.
That was 4. There you go. I'll let you be the winner on that.
Thank you. Like I said, I've been saying it a lot. So that book is going into layout right now. So that will be, we should have copies of it at Gen Con.
Awesome.
So I'm looking forward to it. It brings a whole lot of crazy, and I always like it when Shadowrun brings the crazy, because that's what it should be doing. It's got some really hideous monsters. It's got some weird plot lines. It's got just terribly evil things happening, and Shadowrunner's trying to stand up against it. So it's going to be cool.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love the big scary things that Shadowrun has, because as you get, you've got all the bad guys in D&D and stuff, that all the monsters that you might face, but like here a lot of the monsters are human, or metahuman, but also a lot of them are metahuman made. Um, so that's terrifying too. So yeah, I always love not knowing what's happening. Actually, Bob Loper is in the chat right now. And he is running our Emerald Lich game, which is not playing tonight because we
Hi,
have the
Dr.
one-shot
Bob.
show. Yeah, we have the one-shot show tonight, but we're coming up on the 1-year finale of the campaign that Bob's been running, and we are scared. We don't know what it is exactly. It is an old god, and we're basically going to fight like Cthulhu's cousin, and I'm really scared. So it's going to be great.
I haven't done an extended campaign with Bob, but I have done adventures with him, and he's put me through some stuff.
Yeah, Bob is Dr. Meat Grinder Loper, and I love it. Oh, it's actually much worse. Cool, thanks, Bob. I really appreciate you.
No worries, cool. It's worse than you thought.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happened every time I played Shadowrun. The campaign that I played with Scott Schlatz was had CFD and monads and the Monad Arcanum, and oh gosh, it was all kinds of great stuff. So
you got to run with terrifying. That plot line.
Yeah, I think we were the play test for his plots that he was writing for the books. He was like, "How would this work? Let's mess with my players and find out." So cool. But yeah, so all right, great. So we talked about the conventions. We talked about some of the plot. Any other meta plots you can share with us that have been recent?
So if you followed the book Assassin's Night, there's spillover from that plot.
Ooh.
So let's see, how long ago did Assassin's Night? Well, I'll still be vague just because I hate spoiling things for people. Assassin's Night, as you might guess by its title, dealt with assassins and assassination, and someone pretty high profile being the target of an assassination. And you don't get that sort of thing happening without fallout. So the fallout will continue to roll over the Sixth World, especially looking at who was responsible for hiring the assassin. Whisper Nets will have a lot of information about that. There was a firm mentioned in Assassin's Night called Animus Construction. And if you want to learn a whole lot more about Animus Construction and what they do and what part of the Animus they're actually building, then you'll want to look out for Whisper Nets and then a follow-up threats book coming late this year called Falling Point.
Wow.
So lots of good stuff. I don't want to spoil anything because I always forget what's actually available to people. Because I could give you all the details of Whisper Nets, but I forget that won't be coming out for like 4 more weeks. So I shouldn't spoil it yet.
Yeah. Another shameless plug I'm going to do because we have time here. So for those who don't know, we run, Rem Alternus now runs the Shadowcasters Network. And we are currently converting the Neo-Anarchist podcast into vidcasts. So Opti is going back to the very beginning of all of his podcasts and re-recording them as videos. So you get to like see Opti move around and stuff like that. So it's a short form, like digestible history of Shadowrun lore. So like what has happened in like throughout the period of Shadowrun, since like the timelines diverge between real world and Shadowrun world. So I recommend that. And all of the episodes are on podcasts, but if you want the vidcast, we're on YouTube under the Shadowcasters Network. But, hearing all of this lore that's coming, like I just want Opti to be caught up so that I can hear about all of this stuff on the Neo-Anarchist podcast. And have it all in one place where I can be like, man, I want to hear about the assassination. Man, I want to hear about Detroit. Man, I want to hear about Manhattan. So yeah, you can check it out as well. It's not going to have the most up-to-date stuff yet, but it would be great to have you guys there. Gosh, there's so much Shadowrun history.
There's plenty of cool stuff.
I think that's what was very overwhelming to me as a new player was like the rules were crunchy anyway. It was 5th edition and I had been just playing D&D 5e. So it was very crunchy and it took me ages to learn it enough and I'm still no expert at the rules. I'm like, how do I roll this again? But in terms of the lore, like what's kind of neat is you almost like real life, you hear kind of whispers as you talk to different groups. So like you'll hear whispers about like um HMHVV, the vampirism virus and stuff like that. And like that the different meta races turn into different things based on that. And then you're like, ooh. So it's almost like, how does that work? And then you can dive into that a little bit. And then you hear this rumor over here about how, about the assassination or about the CFD, which I mentioned, which is, I can never remember.
Cognitive fragmentation disorder.
Thank you. So, you know,
cluster frag disorder, whichever you want to call it.
Cluster frag disorder. I like that. It's rough. So you can find out more about that because I just whispered about it. So yeah, hearing all of these different things, like the lore is so rich, but rather than diving into the 50 novels and endless lore books, you know, you can kind of hone in on the stuff that's most interesting to you and learn about it. Though I do highly recommend the fiction because like I just read recently within the past year, Dark Resonance by Phaedra Weldon.
Phaedra knows her stuff.
Yeah, and that was it's about technomancers and like computers are magic to me. So like I don't speak Decker at all, and it really did a good job about of like letting it sink in how technomancers work and what makes them different from Deckers, and talk about the resonance and stuff like that. So if you want like to understand the lore, like pick up those little bits of lore again, but also understand how some of these archetypes work. I really recommend the fiction line. There's a lot of fun in there.
But I'll also give a plug for the Neo-Anarchist Streetpedia. If you want to get an easy way to get caught up on things and dive into some topics, you could just, look up the entry on CFD or look up the entry on some dragons. And it's written in a easy to read, fun style with, probably more jokes than I should have put in there, but I can't help myself.
I think Tom, I think my husband is in the chat. Husband, can you check if we have Neo-Anarchist Streetpedia? Because if not, I'm getting it. Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of Shadowrun. Anything else Shadowrun related that we didn't get to talk about that you would like to?
Well, just because you mentioned how we don't always have the same degree of monsters, we do still have cool monsters and critters. So that's another book coming up later this year, Wildlife, the core critter source book. And I got permission to really go nuts on art for this. So I think we're going to illustrate about 60 critters, maybe more in this book. So we're going to have critter art all over the place. And some of them will be your, biodrones are actually talked more about in Body Shop. So yeah, if you want biodrones, look at Body Shop. I'd talk about the ethics of that. Is it good to program your doggy to do what you want by putting a chip in their brain, or is that mean to the doggy? We'll talk about it in Body Shop.
Awesome.
But lots of good stuff, lots of good critter stuff coming up.
That's neat. Can you like, what are some of the names of some of the critters that we've seen before? You don't have to reveal spoilers, but some of the critters before that we might actually get art for and really be able to visualize.
So we'll get some new Juggernaut art because, of course, you have to get new art of a just massive armadillo rampaging through the desert. I always forget how to pronounce it. The Periton, the kind of deer unicorn. I happened to see the prototype of that art on a computer in my home recently.
Ooh. That's pretty exciting.
Let's see other fun things. The avalanche lynx, the smoke wolf, the Black Forest gargoyle would be there. I think there's like 2 different kinds of gargoyles because you can never have enough gargoyles. I know the Vodyanoi has been in books before, so we'll get an illustration of that.
I'm sorry, God bless you. What was that?
Vodyanoi. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but that's what I got.
What kind of creature is that?
It is a long frog with a beard. It's like a bearded frog. Yeah, I saw the illustration of this one too. This one was not on a computer in my home, but it was sent to me. It's a kind of bearded frog with human-like teeth. It's really weird looking.
Ooh.
Yeah,
neat.
But I'm
very excited.
Illustration was nice and creepy, so that's what it needed to be.
Cool.
There's the Juggernaut, the Death Rattle, so awakened Diamondback rattlesnake. Ghost Bear will be in there. Megalodon.
Megalodon, yes.
A new thing called the Wisp Spider. It's a spider that lights up, so it attracts people in forest to its web.
It's like an anglerfish, but on land. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hide it from Bull too. He won't be able to see it. The Piasma's been around for a while, so we'll get an illustration of that.
Does the spider live in Australia? Because I feel like it would come from Australia. That's something horrifying that would come from Australia.
It's a forest creature, so yeah, any forest they have in Australia would live there because it is well suited. But we'll spread it out across the world to send glowy spidery love.
Great. Super.
And then because our art director specifically requested it, he was saying we have capacity to do like 20 more images, and he requested that we make a combat wombat. Kind of a merger of a wombat and an armadillo with extra legs, like a tardigrade kind of thing.
Was that Brent?
No, that was Ian.
Okay. I haven't gotten to work a lot with Ian yet, but I already don't like him.
Ian's fantastic. You'll enjoy. So,
combat wombat. I'm upset.
Ian is great because he does. We had an Eeyore competition in Shadowrun production meeting a few weeks ago to see who could be the best Eeyore between Randall and Ian. And Randall can be a decent Eeyore, but Ian absolutely dusted the floor with him. There was no competition. He is the Eeyore beyond all Eeyores.
Man, those sound like some very fun and productive meetings.
Oh yeah, we were absolutely on target and making sure business happened.
Definitely. We've got a few minutes left. So since we've kind of talked about fiction a little bit, you have some Shadowrun novels as well out there. Can you talk a little bit about those?
I do. I love them. I'd like to be doing more, but John keeps, not assigning me them. I'm not taking it personally. I mean, one of my favorite books that I've ever written is Hell on Water. And that's whether, Shadowrun, Battletech, non-tie-in. I just love that book because it's nuts. And I tried to do something different and they let me get away with it. So
I had a lot of fun reading that one. That was a really fun one.
It came from when I was, way back when I was editing Feral Cities. So this is, back 4th edition. And they talked about the 6-kilometer or 12-kilometer long bridge in Lagos, Nigeria, and how difficult it was to traverse because some portions of it are breaking down and some are controlled by pirates. And I was like, there could be a whole novel about just trying to travel that whole bridge. So now there is one.
Yep. Now there is one. And I loved reading it dearly. And now that I'm producing the audiobooks, I'm very frustrated because I'm like, how do I find people that can do Lagosian accents?
As I've said that a lot of the voice, I used to play basketball regularly. I haven't been able to, but for a while I was playing, and it's just like a few adults, but a lot of neighborhood kids would show up. So I was playing with a bunch of neighborhood kids, and there was one kid who was from Nigeria. Ooh. And so he had a little bit of the accent, not much because he'd grown up here, but a lot of times he'd do imitations of his mom. And so a lot of the accent is based on his imitations of his mom.
Oh, that's
just because
funny
when
and
he would
cute.
do his mom, it had the right command in the voice that I wanted the voice in Hell on Water to have.
Yep. Cool. And what other novels have you done?
So I wrote Under Shadows, which is my big CFD novel. Just because
That's what it's about. I haven't read that one yet.
It's not entirely about CFD, but it's also is about CFD. The main character has CFD.
Ooh.
So she's trying to live with this new being in her head. Mm-hmm. And the beginning I had a lot of fun with because they've actually kind of established a good working relationship. And the thing in her head has different abilities than she does.
Ooh.
So they're able to trade off. And so the opening scene where she says, okay, right now my abilities can't help. So we're going to let the personality in my head take over this scene and use her abilities to intimidate these people. Was a fun scene to write. And then things get weirder from there.
Yeah. So I have the book. It's sitting under my coffee table right now. So I'm going to need to read it. Especially now that I know there's CFD and how it's so near and dear to my heart after what was done to me during our campaign at home. So wow, that's rough and fascinating, and I love it.
That was a lot of fun to write too, and I got to go to weird places again. And again, it was a source book, and this happens a lot. This has happened, BattleTech, Shadowrun, whenever. It's reading a source book where you get an idea, and you want to set a story there. So it was, I think, Angel Towers, if I'm remembering right.
Ooh,
Angel Towers Arcology in London that they invented. It was an abandoned arcology, so mainly taken over by gangs. So I really wanted to have, gang people roaming the halls of a possibly haunted abandoned arcology. So that was fun to play with.
Cool. And are those the only two Shadowrun novels?
From the latest, I did Drops of Corruption years ago, back when WizKids was doing the Shadowrun Duels game. Okay. So I wrote that. So that's one of my first novels, but not the first, but my first Shadowrun novel.
And you do have other novels that are non-Shadowrun as well that people could find, right?
Yeah, I've got the BattleTech novels. I've got my own standalone novel called The Last Prophecies. And then my wife and I, she came up with a fantasy setting called Ulana Gahi. Ulanigahi. So it focuses largely on Native Americans in the early colonial days of America and has some really fun magic in it, a lot of fun creatures in it. So she just came up with this system, or not this system, the setting, and said, I want to have these creatures and I want to have this sort of magic and I want to have this and this and this. And I was like, well, that's a lot of cool stuff. Can I tell stories about it? And she said, yeah. So we've done 2 novellas so far. One of them is called The Wise One, and the other one is called Kimi and the Missionaries. And so they are both available. I wrote a short story that will be in a book called 99 Fleeting Fantasies that will come out from Pulse Publishing. So the short story that has that setting will be in there. And then we're working on another story that is untitled because right now it doesn't have a good title. But cool. Once all 3 of the novellas are out, what I'd like to do is put them together in an omnibus edition and then make that available both as PDF and ebook and print on demand so people can download it. And Kat does the covers of all of them, so they're delightful covers. And
she's a wonderful artist, so please check her out as well.
So I'm just trying to write stories that live up to her art.
Aww. Oh, we do have one question that I see here in the chat real quick as we wrap up here. If any more of the books for Shadowrun will be released on Roll20.
Yes. Did I not mention that? I'm a terrible promoter. Do you know what I need? Do you know what I need, Rem? I need a sales and marketing person to keep me straight.
Well, do I have news for you?
Yes, Roll20. I should have mentioned that because the core rule book is about to come out on Roll20, and that was the thing I'm really excited about for March. So
Yay!
Sixth World Core Rulebook is almost done. We've been working hard on lots of tokens because there's an unbelievable amount of tokens we need for that book to cover all the gear and weapons and cars and NPCs, but it is almost done. We're just putting the final touches on it. And then the core rulebook compendium will be available on Roll20. And then after that, we'll be working on Firing Squad and Street Weird and the other gear heavy core books to bring them over to Roll20. So absolutely there will be more books coming to Roll20. And the core book will be there very, very soon. Should be this month. If not,
cool.
I'm not going to say anything beyond that. Should be this month.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, last question. Where can we find and follow you to learn more about what you do and watch what's coming?
So Shadowrun6world.com has the blog, so that's where we put up announcements. The Shadowrun Facebook page always has the most up-to-date stuff as well. You can follow Catalyst Game Labs on Twitter if you like, but the Facebook probably has the most detailed information if you want. We have an Instagram site, but I've never used it, so I don't even know what it is.
That's
so
my
those
problem
are
now.
ways. And if you want to just follow my stuff, Jason M. Hardy Writer on Facebook is the best way to get updates there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. It's always fun and easy to talk to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next week in Chicago. And we'll have you back for the next announcement, I'm sure.
Thank you very much for having me. And yes, very much looking forward to seeing you in person.
Now stay tuned, REMPCs, because we'll be right back. Don't forget, everyone, that we have a wonderful giveaway of the Astral Ways book, which is the Metaplane book that's new from Shadowrun and Catalyst. And you can get a copy by typing #REMPC in the chat right now to enter to win. And that is a free entry just by typing #REMPC. You can also donate bits. Every 100 bits gets you an extra entry to win. Or you can subscribe to the Gen Con TV channel, which gets you 7 whole bonus entries. So for the cost of 5 entries, you get 7, 2 extra for free. So check that out, do the thing, and stay tuned because coming up next is the monthly one-shot show. And I'm very excited tonight because our team will be playing Blades in the Dark. And it's going to be run by Elizabeth, who is an absolute delight in the REM community. And so stay tuned, support her, support the team, and we'll be back with Rules of Cool next week. Bye, REM PCs.